I'm finally talking about it. And, to most people, they probably won't care because, it's, most people aren't from Boston that listen to me. I mean, maybe like 5% of my audience is from New England. Maybe less than that. I don't even know what the numbers are, but it's very small. You know what I mean? Probably about 50 to 100 of you guys. But everybody can relate to this, I guess. I haven't talked about it because it's actually painful. I'm not kidding. And it sounds stupid that it's painful, but we become so digital and online and, YouTube and podcast and upload and website that it hurts more the more I think about the old stuff, the more I think about back in the day, the more I think about what really led me here. Oh, God, I'm sorry about that noise. What really led me here, dude, it's so fucking crushing and sad that it's unbelievable. I almost can't do it. And my point is that I grew up listening to Howard Stern. I grew up listening to WEI. I grew up listening to Loveline, Adam Carolla and Dr. Drew. I grew up listening to The Police Scanner. I grew up listening to all these things. It sounds archaic, right? Like we sound archaic, but it's not. It's when the future was here, it felt like the future was here in the 90s. And it felt like the future was here in the early 2000s. We were living in this futuristic world, but we still had radio, and there still is radio. There's still radio all over the place. But, everybody was aspiring to be on the radio still. You know what I mean? That's what when I was in high school, you got to remember the world is so different. Everybody in my high school who wanted to do this was still wanted to be on the radio. What do people want to do now in high school? They probably want to be on like YouTube or something, or like podcasters maybe. Or, if there's people that want to be on the radio, there's still a lot of people that want to be podcasters now instead. So there's probably still a lot of people that want to be on the radio, but there's probably still a lot of people that want to be podcasters. Where when I was in school, there was none of that. It was radio or nothing. Like you weren't thinking about launching an internet radio channel. You weren't thinking about launching a podcast. You weren't thinking about being a YouTuber. None of that stuff. You were thinking, I got to get on the radio. I want to be on the radio. I'm going to school for radio. Can I ever be on the radio? I want to be the next Howard Stern. I want to be the next sports guy. Now, the only thing that does well still on the radio is sports. That's the only thing. If you do sports, you're good. Sports is great, but playing like rock music or any music really on the radio is kind of dead. Because the companies would rather just play music. Just play fucking music. Don't say anything. Don't talk. Don't do any of that stuff. Just play music. So that's how it's changed. We always thought radio would die, but that never happened. XM and Sirius couldn't kill radio. It just became a slight alternative. Radio just hasn't died. It won't die. I still believe that if you bring an entertaining show to the radio, it's going to kill it. You know what I mean? Like, if you have a show that is amazingly funny or really good on the radio, people are going to listen to it because they're going to work in their cars still. There's still radios in the cars. As long as there are radios in the car, it's always going to be there. It certainly is much harder to find a radio around your house. Like, there's people who probably don't have a radio in their house right now. A lot of people. And that never would have happened back in the day. Every tape player, every CD player, or whatever the hell, had a radio on it as well, had a radio option. Oh, I don't want to listen to a CD. Hey, what's on the radio right now? Or, hey, I'm hearing they're doing this on the radio right now. Let me check it out. And even in the 90s and in the 2000s, we all thought to ourselves, I can't believe radio still exists. I can't believe it. But it still does now. People still have radios at work, and people still have radios in their cars. But for the first time recently, more people are switching over to Bluetooth in their car than anything. People are turning their phone, their favorite podcast on, or their favorite YouTube thing on. So radio has lost a lot of ground. But still, if you have an entertaining show and people hear about it, they're going to hear about it through clips on Twitter, clips on Facebook, clips on YouTube, maybe by accident when they're turning the station or whatever the case is. They're going to hear about it. And you can still do well. It's just there's so many more options now. That's all. That's basically all I'm saying. But my point in saying this is I grew up listening to Howard Stern. I grew up listening to Mistress Carrie and everybody at WAAF, WBCN, going back to Charles Lacradera, the Hillman Morning Show, WEEI, Loveline with Dr. Drew and Adam Carolla, and just all these different. This is what I grew up, man. This is what I was listening to when I was 8 years old, 12 years old, especially when I was 10 and 11 and 12 and 13 and 14, and I couldn't sleep at night. I'd put them on. I'd have tapes all over the place of the shows from the day. If I missed the show or if I liked a show, I'll never forget Howard Stern's 9/11 broadcast. That was insane. I would tape the show, and I would go to a school, and I would set a VHS. I'd have two VCRs, guys. I had two VCRs. This is how obsessed I am and how much I loved radio. I would have two VHS tapes in two different VCRs in my bedroom. And as I went to school, I would always tape the Howard Stern show. And then sometimes I would tape WAAF or whatever was on WBCN. It might have been Howard Stern. And I would set the tape to long play, like 6 hours. And I would, because a little cassette tape could only really record. I don't think I had a cassette tape that could record for more than 4 hours. I don't remember, but for some reason I chose VHS tapes in a VCR to record the audio, and I would VCR play back the show from the day. And yeah, I mean, that's how obsessed I was. And one of the people at the forefront for music, especially like during like the whole new metal thing when things turned over, was Mistress Carrie. And I loved WAAF. I loved Hillman in the morning, the morning show there. By the year 2000, I would download the Man Cow or whatever his name is over, I think in Chicago. I would download his show and listen to his show. And I really listened, like whatever Mistress Carrie is to rock. She loves rock music. She knows all about these bands and all these people. That's what I did with radio. I was obsessed with it. I loved listening to talk shows. I loved comedy. I loved the late night guy who was weird at like 2 a.m. in the morning. Guys like Scott Farrell, CBS Radio. Hey, it's me, Scott Farrell. You want to fucking... Like that guy, man. Like 2 in the morning. I can't even do Scott Farrell because I'm sick. I feel like if I was sick, I could do him better. But I'm so sick I can't do him. And I don't mean like have sex with him. I mean like impersonate him. So relax, you sickos out there. But yeah, I don't know. It's weird because I grew up listening to these guys. I grew up listening to Mistress Carrie, and it's just I know it's weird because I didn't do this with BCN because I was shocked with BCN and I was sad because it's just familiarity. It's just a radio station. You know what I mean? But the familiarity with WBCN was, it was like, that was really sad when WBCN closed down. And when WFNX closed down, I just went, oh, well, there goes another. I mean, that makes sense. There goes another one. But but now seeing AAF go away, I am so lost right now in my head. These are the stations I grew up with, like, there is no more WBCN in Boston. There is no more WFNX in Boston. And now there is no more WAAF in Boston. I am shocked. And I love, Mistress Carrie and them going off the air the other night. That was tough, man. It's weird. Howard Stern has become a weird celebrity guy who interviews people and calls Wendy the special listener or whatever the hell he does. Howard Stern is completely changed. Great interviewer, but it's not the show it was ever. Opie and I left out Opie and Anthony. Opie and Anthony aren't even a thing anymore at all. They broke up a long time, like 5 years ago now. 98.5 The Sports Hub is the only thing left. About 10 years ago, or 11 years ago now, I don't know, they launched a new radio station in Boston, and it was 98.5 The Sports Hub. And the only stations we have now are sports stations. There's WEEI talking about sports, and then they launched 98.5 The Sports Hub. So really, Boston has gone from loving rock music and having these rock music stations to being sports radio. Though that's the only thing that can thrive here is sports radio. And what took over WAAF is like Christian music or something. It's weird. But and it is just a sad goodbye that I had to mention. I hope Mistress Carrie gets a good job somewhere and we can hear her still. I hope Mike Shue gets a good job. I've always liked Mike Shue, and I don't know. It's crazy. I know Greg left, the Hillman guy left for, I think, WEI. I think there was a part of me that always dreamed, because I'd always tried to apply at AAF and at all these places, even over the years. And there's a part of me that was like, someday I am going to get on this station. Someday I am going to have a show on here, and I'm going to tear up the ratings, and you're going to, you know what I mean? There's going to be like a friggin' resurgence, and they're going to be doing videos on me. You're going to be like, wow, this guy saved the radio station. This guy launched a goddamn revolution. And we would have been nuts. But instead, it ends with a tinkle down my leg. I don't know, man, whatever. But anyway, these are thoughts that a lot of people have said to me off air, you know, on Twitter and on emails, like telling me from Boston, like, can you believe this? And, you know, what do you think about it? And I really hadn't said anything, but I figured I'd say something now. And yeah, man, it's just sad to me because, again, I grew up loving these stations, and I grew up listening. These are the stations that molded me when I was a kid. And it's just super sad. I still have the bumper stickers, all the bumper stickers. Oh, no, I don't. That's a lie. A lot of them got thrown out with the stuff I stuck them on, but I still have some of the bumper stickers. I think my favorite one was the Aerosmith bit, like the Aerosmith one. It was like blue, WAF. And didn't we have the let me see. Let me see if we still have these, because these were great. No, I don't know. I was looking for the Opie. Oh yeah, here's the Opie and Anthony WoW stickers. That's what I was looking for, because they used to have those too. I still have some of those. I think that was WBCN though. But yeah, that's about it, man. You know, Opie and Anthony announcing that and I'm talking about all Boston radio now. I'm not just talking about WAF. I'm talking about all Boston radio. When Opie and Anthony announced the mayor was dead, I mean, that shit was hilarious. You know what I mean? Opie and Dopey. The next day, the sports final, New York's hometown for the newspaper. Shock Jocks, St. Pat's sex stunt. I mean, they did that in New York at the St. Patrick's Cathedral or whatever, the 2-point conversion at the church. That shit was hilarious. But they did it they announced the mayor was dead in Boston, and that was great. There's just been a lot of awesome moments of things that have happened over the years. You know, WAF really went to like Afghanistan, and like Mistress Carrie really supported the troops. There were soldiers, like they supported the hell out of the soldiers and the troops over there. You know, when the new metal stuff started happening, you know, Slipknot and all these bands that they got such great access to. I would watch the late night WAF show on TV. I forget what TV station that was on. But, you know, like 1 a.m, it would come on locally. There's a whole bunch of stuff, man. That I don't know. I wanted to ramble on about these things because I wouldn't be here doing this without all of that. You know, we talk about wrestling a lot and stuff like that, obviously, but I mean, like, I never talk about, you know, all the radio that I listen to and all that stuff. It's just weird. But anyway, rest in peace to WAF. And it's crazy. I can't believe it. I can't believe it.
You guys,
the people who made this made it so I could work here for 20 years.
You guys have been texting and calling and just so supportive. There's a whole gang of people that just showed up at the radio station. We put speakers out there so they could hear us. we are nothing without you. And
Yeah.
for as much as you've been telling us that you love us, we love you so much. And you have given us this dream life that we never would have been able to have without you.
And I've never experienced, and I've worked at a few radio stations, I've never experienced the intensity and the passion and just the craziness,
Yeah.
which I love so much about our listeners. They're so passionate, and they would do anything to help us, and they have.
Yeah.
They've done a lot to help us help other people.